Welcome to the Real Autism Podcast. Real as in relevant, effective, actionable living strategies and solutions for a better quality of life. Join your host, Alicia Gaucher-Page, for some real conversations. Sponsored by J. Cole Autism Coaching.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to the Real Autism Podcast, where we talk about relevant, effective, actionable living strategies and solutions. I am your host, Alicia Gaucher-Page, as well as an autism mom of two individuals on the spectrum. So today I have the pleasure of having three great fathers to children that are on the spectrum. And you all are a valuable person of the team. I think a lot of times fathers are overlooked. So this podcast is important to me so that people can get your perspective. So welcome to the Real Autism Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to go around and do some quick introductions. I have Mr. Zuri Williams, Mr. Marcus Hamilton, and Mr. Cedric Page. So Zuri, if you'll kick us off, tell us about Zuri. What do we need to know about Zuri?
Well, thanks, Alicia, for having us first off. So I am, in this hat, I'm a father of two neurodivergent children. One, a son is 19, autism, as far as diagnosis, sensory processing disorder, and intellectual disability. A daughter that's 17, same thing, autism, a lot of physical, motor planning skill issues, celiac disease, sleep apnea, things of that nature I'll talk a little bit more about. But in today's world, I'm also the owner of Matters of the Heart and Mind. And what that is just I just kind of coach and parent, help with the parents of those that have neurodivergent children with dealing with their emotional issues, kind of what to do next as far as dieting, IEPs, things of that nature. So my goal here now is just the things that I've learned from going through this journey is to help other parents. But I want to thank you, Alicia, for this because I've been on many podcasts and different events. I'm always the only man. So it's good to see other men. So appreciate you.
Minority tonight. I'm a minority. Mr. Hamilton, what do we need to know about Marcus?
Well, thank you for having me as well. I'm a father of three. I have two children on the spectrum. I have a son that is undiagnosed and a daughter that is severely autistic with some intellectual impairment. My son is 20 and my daughters are 14 now and 12, and my autistic daughter is 14. I was a single parent for a little bit, for about 5 years. The mother of my daughters passed away in 2019, and I'm going to be getting married actually here coming up on Saturday. And so just living the life. I'm an entrepreneur and an engineer by trade, and I just do everything I can to to keep my kids going and to try to navigate this world of autism. Just trying to make it.
Congratulations on the upcoming wedding. You have a lot to unpack, so hopefully I'll remember when we come back to you because I have a couple of questions for you. All right, Cedric Page. What do we need to know about Mr. Cedric Page?
Good evening, everyone. It's great to meet Zuri and Marcus. And Alicia, I want to thank you for spearheading and being the founder of JCO Advocacy for the autism awareness and acceptance for kids that are and individuals that are on the spectrum. My name is Cedric Page. I'm a co-parent and co-guardian of two son and daughter that are on the spectrum. Our daughter is 22 years old. That's Jasmine. Coleman is 15-year-old, which he's in high school at this current moment. Jasmine has had some challenges with some behavior challenges in the past. She's definitely improving with a lot of great help from two of our great caregivers that are always there, always very patient in a timely manner, and we're very thankful to have them as our caregivers for Jasmine. And Coleman, at this current moment, he has to use a device for communication skills. His speech is delayed at this present time, but we're praying and hoping that speech, that verbalization, will be coming out in the very near future. Glad to be here tonight.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to get right into it. So, I was thinking today about characteristics of a mom, characteristics of a father. And so, we say the mom is the nurturer, and we say the dad is the protector. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, as the nurturer, sometimes that may cause our children to be codependent because we're going in and we want to make sure we're doing everything and not giving them an opportunity to be independent. As the protector, as fathers, how do you think that impacts the relationship you have with your neurodivergent children? I mean, it may be some positives, but it also may be some drawbacks as well. What are you all's thoughts on that? Who would like to take a stab at that first?
I definitely can. Dealing with that right now. So, my autistic daughter requires more of my time to do the most basic of things that really don't require any type of, you know, supervision. And it creates tension between the siblings because they look at it as favoritism. And it's not really favoritism, she just requires more time. Like if she was in a wheelchair, they wouldn't question why I'm pushing her. But because it's like she looks like them, she's actually bigger than them. So it looks like favoritism to them. And we're dealing, like we just started ABA therapy like about 2 weeks ago. So that has been new and exciting, and I've got a lot of hope and optimism about that. It's been difficult to start, but I kind of expected that because she's kind of a strong-willed young lady. Um, but it's weird, and I want her to be more independent. Lord knows I do, but I also don't want her to hurt herself or not be hygienic or to forget to eat, or for something to happen to her and no one know because she's not gonna be able to tell you what happened. Um, you know, it those things are, they're I go to bed with those worries. I wake up with them as it relates to her. I try to spend time, or I allow the kids that are not as severe as she is, my children, my son and my other daughter, to do more things because they can, as kind of a means to compensate because she just does require more time. And we're in therapy so they can see those things. And it's just, I don't know. It's like, with children, I don't know. You could give them the world and they'll still want something more. So, it's time, it's kind of difficult to bridge that gap, but it's just a reality of the situation. And it has its pluses, like my daughter knows that she's going to be taken care of. She can call my name. She trusts that I'm going to be there for her, that she's not going to falter. She's not going to stumble. Like if she calls my name, she trusts that I'm going to be there. But like I said, it creates that shadow of favoritism, especially because you're just one person, and especially as a single parent, it's a little bit worse. Now to have a partner, I can share some of that, but it definitely is something that lingers in the shadows.
I am going to come to Cedric and Zuri, but I want to tap into that a little bit more. So I know you said it'll take more time. So in your interactions with her, what does more time look like? Do you feel like you're allowing her to do it on her own, or do you feel like she's a little bit codependent on you?
Oh, I feel like the journey from not being able to do anything to now, I've got to grow out of doing everything for her, and she's growing into starting to do more for herself. And some of that comes with, you know, me wanting to, you know, just having the habit of doing it, you know, like having the habit of putting her bra on her, having the habit of making sure that, you know, so she doesn't have it on backwards, or, you know, she puts her clothes on backwards, making sure all of that is correct. And it does take a little more time, which I'm learning through this ABA therapy, of just prompting her and saying, okay, nope, you turn, no, like, no, no, you know, and it might take 30 times, you know, like it might literally take like 30 times. And then she's like, oh yeah, like I got it, like no big deal, you know. So I'm learning because there was a time where she couldn't do that, you know. So there was a time where I had to do those things. I had to wipe her and clean her, and now that she's 14, like I am taking a step back, but it does. Like even with my partner, like she was like, "You do way too much for her." You know, like she was like, "You do way too much." You know, like you're like a helicopter. Like you're just like, you know, just everything. You're like you're just always there. But it was I
And
had
that's
to
part of
be.
that. That's part of that protection, right? You know, protecting, making sure they have what they need. But as you know, as she's getting older, it's definitely not too early to be thinking about transitional planning. And if you go back and listen to one of my podcasts with Megan Timko, who focuses on transitional planning, she's like, one day you're doing all these things, and the next day you're like, okay, you're on your own, you're independent, do it yourself kind of thing. So it does take patience, and just having a conversation with the kids and just talking to them, not talking at them, but maybe talking to them to ask them how they feel. How does that make them feel? You know, could be one of those things. Zuri, what are your thoughts around protector being a drawback? And even if you have any feedback from Marcus as a fellow father.
Just listening to Marcus, it was just kind of interesting because I can relate prior. You know, my kid's a little older now, right? So one, to answer your question from the get go, Alicia, it's that I think Mark said bridging the gap. I call it straddling the fence of just kind of how protective to be, or how much as a father you want to be the one that they know they can always depend on. So I fell into the finishing sentences. I know what you wanted to say, what you're trying to say or want to do, and so I will just fulfill the task without you actually saying it yourself or communicating it correctly. So at some point in time, what I realized, I'm hindering them by doing that, by making sure, because you can communicate exactly what you want, but because I'm trying to be a dad and let you know I'm always here for you, protector, empathy, I call it as well. I'll do it no matter what. I'll show you that I can fulfill whatever need that you guys have. But when it got to a more of a teenage age, I realized I'm actually hindering their growth. So now it's more of a reminding all the time of successes that we've had. My son and I have a little affirmation: complete, and he always says the task. I do that so he can whenever he says I can't do something, we do that, and I remind him of 3, 4, 5 things that he's done before. Even my daughter, she can do anything. She's brilliant, but she may say I don't have time or I can't do it because X, Y, Z. I just remind all these other things you had going, whatever amount of time, and you're able still to complete that task. So now it's kind of changed from do for you to I need to protect you of how the world, because the world's not going to give you that time. The world's not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So now it's more of a anything you tell me you're not capable of doing, my job is to remind you that you can do it. You've done it before, and literally give you the examples of what you did to succeed. So that's kind of, I guess, the roles have changed, but it's still a protective nature.
Ezra, what about you? What are your thoughts around being a protector, and how has that influenced your relationship with your
Um,
kids or our kids? Yeah, by the way, that's my co-parent. So that's why we keep saying our. So how has that influenced your relationship with our kids?
Jasmine and Coleman, they are different when it comes to gaining knowledge and learning. And Coleman is a little bit more, all you have to do is just pretty much talk him through what he has to do to kind of prepare him for that task. And from there, he can carry it on. And it might take 2 or 3 times, for maybe a little bit more than that. You have to repeat yourself a few times, but eventually he will catch on to it. Even though he doesn't communicate, his eye contact, his engagement is quite well. So he can grasp the information depending on what it is. Whereas with Jasmine, it may take a little bit more patience. And when it comes to being a protector as a dad, for me, it's more so about safety than anything. Being aware of your surroundings. Like, one of the things that we're working on with Coleman is that personal space when you're around people, going out into the community, making sure before you cross the street, make sure a car is not coming. The learning and the growth, I feel as if that he catches on pretty well with that. It's the more so of teaching him how to protect himself, making sure both children, Jasmine and Coleman, are learning that so they can protect themselves, because we're not going to always be around. They might be with a caregiver or at school or whatever, and they do a great job of seeing after both Jasmine and Coleman, whether it's school or a caregiver. But for me, it's all about safety, making sure they be aware of their surroundings. So I know I know when Coleman was much younger, I would get him to hold on to me when we're going out in public. But now I'm like, Coleman, you can let go. It's okay. I'm standing right beside you. So, that it took me a minute to want to do that, because I know their mom, sometimes she'll say that I'm a little bit more protective over Jasmine than I am Coleman. It's just that, I'm a girl dad. So I always want to make sure she's in a safe environment. Whereas with Coleman, I might be a little bit more harder on him. But, for me, it's all about safety when it comes to protecting him.
So you bring up a good point. And it's great because all of you guys have a mix of girls and boys. So how has your experience been? I know, it's like each person is different, right? So even in your household, your son is going to be different from your daughter, even though both of them are on the spectrum. How do you all, is there a difference? Do you manage them differently? Does being a girl dad, if you feel like you are a girl dad, get in the way of you being able to support them? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
I would
With the
say for
different
me,
genders?
it can get in the way. It can stop their growth. So I have to sometimes pull back because someone brought up a point about hindering them. And sometimes I have to pull back and allow them to, make those mistakes, to see if they can figure it out. Because if I'm always jumping in to try to correct something, they're not going to grow. It's just like with us, even with us when we were growing up, our parents, they had to get to a point where they had to just kind of let us go and let us bump our head on the wall a few times before we figure things out. So for me personally, that's a growth moment. I have to learn how to let go so they can learn, and that's how I can learn to be a better co-parent and a co-guardian as well.
For this one, man, it's really simple to me. Neurodivergent, neurotypical, it doesn't matter. We're dads, right? You're going to always have a different level of empathy that you show for your daughter than your son. I don't care what. So I got a million examples, but just in general, like I realized a hindrance I may have done at one point of doing, like you said, too much, Marcus, but I would never say no to my daughter for a long time. I just didn't know how, because I wanted her to know there's nothing she can't ask daddy that he's not going to fulfill that. With my son, I purposely was trying to say no, and show him he can accomplish it and he can do the task, whatever it may be, whether we're talking about therapy or whether we're talking about fix the doorknob, whatever it is. So I look at that aspect. I treat them probably just like they're two neurotypical kids as far as what I do for my daughter different than my son, right? Um, and that's pretty much it as far as that goes. Yep. I don't think I do it any differently if they were neurotypical.
I have to be a little bit guilty of I treat all my children different. Like they're all different plants, and they all have different ingredients and different sets of rules. And it's not the best method. No, no, and it's definitely changing. Um, I did a lot of overcompensating for my children, and that came the way that they needed it. Versus just one size fit all. I felt like a short order cook sometimes. I felt it like I was Amazon. But it's definitely quailed. It's definitely quailed quite a bit. Because they are getting older and they've got different needs and different aspirations, and ambitions, and I want the best for all of them, regardless of whatever that is, whatever the best is. And trying to help get them there, whether it's requiring more of my time, or it's more through delegation, or through just financial means, whatever it is that they may need at this time. But it's hard. It's hard raising neurotypical and neurodivergent children in the same household.
Mm,
Um, that like that comes with its own its own challenges, because they see the differences. Like,
right.
especially if it's not a lot of resources or support to kind of mentor the parent, myself, plus them, through what it is that we're all doing, because we're all doing it fresh, like first time. It's a new experience for all of us. Um, but I would say, if you didn't do it my way, it would probably be a lot better. You know, we're learning that now. But hey, it's a journey. It's a journey.
And yeah, you said, and I see Zuri, you're gonna say something. I just want to say, you said it. It's a journey, and that's why we call this the Real Autism Podcast, because it's gonna be some hard times. There is no perfect parent out there, but the goal is to share our story so that we can make, first of all, get it off of our chest, and then make it easier for other people that are going through the journey. So don't beat yourself up. I mean, as many of my guests have said on the podcast, as caregivers, as parents, we are doing the best that we can. So you just have to keep that in mind as you're going through this, and not saying, well, I should have, I could have, I would have. That sets you back from the progress you can make. So just keep doing what you do. Zuri, what you got?
Well, one, there's no script to it. That's about to pick up what you just said. But all I was going to say to Marcus, Mark said something a while back about his daughter and just, being bigger than the other children and the expectations. But your question about protecting and difference in girls and boys, my thought process still, no matter what, when they go in the public world, the world is going to see them as just two black individuals, right? My son is a black man. So the reason why I think I do, well, I know it's true. I've probably not the right thing to do, but sometimes treat them differently is because my daughter's still a petite young woman and my son is a black man. I recognize that. So I'm always thinking to myself, I may know he's the nicest, kindest child in the world, but anyone else is just going to see a man. So I'm trying to raise him and to see that everyone may not have the gloves on or when they're with you and try to help guide you through, help you through processing. They're just going to see a black man. So I am a little harder on him in how I raise him than my daughter. It's just what it is.
Yeah. And one of the things that when it comes back to the safety thing is that, I hope that Coleman is understanding that when you go out in public, you got to look out for yourself because no one else is going to look out for you. Your head has always got to be on a swivel. So I'm instilling that self-protection in him all the time. because I always want him to come back home safe.
That is a good point. I had something in the top of my head and I just lost it that I wanted to ask, but I'll ask this, Marcus, of you. I noticed that when you did your introduction, you said that your son was undiagnosed, your daughter was diagnosed. Do you see any, I guess, do you see any challenges with your son not being diagnosed at this point? Like, do you not see it as a benefit to go get him diagnosed, or what's your thoughts on that?
Um, well, he came to me at 17, um, from my first marriage, and I'm not until now. We've actually kind of reconciled our differences. We didn't have a really good relationship with her, so that kind of hindered any type of therapy or help for anything because she lived in a very rural town in Tennessee, and it everything just kind of was justified as that's just the way he is, and they just didn't do anything. Now, I have to say, raising the way that they raised him like he was a neurotypical child, in some ways I think helped him, and in some ways it definitely hindered him. He's in therapy now. He's on finally getting him medicated, and he's at the age now that he you can see you can see the challenges, you can see where they are, the communication, the recall, social awkwardness is just out of this world. But when you're in a town with 1,000 people, you you don't have those issues, because they all know who you are, and like you have your bullies, and you have the people that are safe, and you know who the bullies are, you know who the safe people are. My son was robbed walking down the street going to the aquarium, you know, because he looks like he doesn't know what he's doing, and but he wants everyone to be his friend, like everybody, homeless people, people on the train, it doesn't matter who. If they start talking to him, he's going to start talking to them. Um, so we're working towards that, but he also wants to be an adult because they're saying, hey, you're 20. Like, this is what other 20-year-olds are doing, they've got their own place, or they're driving, and they've got girlfriends, and so he wants to be a neurotypical 20-year-old, and he can't. Not say he can be. He can achieve whatever he wants to achieve. It's just he's got a different. He's gonna just have to take a different path to getting to those things. Um, we're working on getting him diagnosed. I definitely want to get that done, but he's in college, and we're working through this therapy because he dealt with a lot of trauma. Because he didn't know how to ask questions or understand what it is that he was dealing with, like, in that social awkwardness, bullies pick up on that, like, so he was the high school punching bag and the middle school punching bag, and he came here with a whole lot of PTSD that we are starting to finally unravel and unpack. And I think once we get to a place where he can trust what he's saying, because he doesn't really tell the truth, not to lie. He tells the truth. He tells whatever, he says whatever he thinks is going to be what you want to hear so that he doesn't get in trouble. And that's his answer to everything. So you don't really know what's true and what's not until we're starting to unravel. But as we get closer to the bottom of this barrel, I'm hoping that we can get him diagnosed. I think some of those resources might do him some good. But also, I think the label I think has some kind of stigma to him, maybe from his town, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he was extremely reluctant when I was first mentioning it to him, because I'm like, I would see, you know, because I've got the severe case, obviously, and I've got his, and I see a lot of the similarities, and I see some of the awkwardness, and I, you know, like the, you know, like just to, you know, like he would lose something, he would just be distraught, like, you know, like just like unconsolable, you know. And it was you know, it took some therapy and some time and some medication to get him to be able to just be able to talk through those things in a way where we can at least try to get to the bottom of it before we're just like dealing with this avalanche of just raw emotions over losing a key or the cat going outside. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, I think the good news is that you all are taking the steps. I mean, for my listeners out there, it is never too late. It's never too early to make progress. You just take it one step at a time. I think communication is key, just talking about it, doing a lot of listening too, maybe doing less talking, just listening to what he's saying and try to filter through the emotions that he's conveying it with, but more so why he feels the way he feels. But from from a strategy standpoint, I think you're doing all the right things. I mean, I think you all would agree the journey with autism is a journey, which means, you know, whenever you take a trip, you start out good, right? Good energy, you hype, you got your music going, then you start asking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Ooh, I'm tired. I'm tired of stopping. And that's pretty much how the journey is with autism too, right? But you just stop at a hotel, get some sleep, and get refreshed. And so I think when you're going to therapy, when you're spending time with him, man to man, to show him, you know, how he should operate, I think it will all work out just fine. Zuri, did you have any thoughts? You are a certified life coach. What are your thoughts around what Marcus just shared?
Just in general. Well, one, I love your analogy, Alicia. I was sitting there, I'm gonna use that. That's what I was sitting there thinking. But Marge, when you said something, all I was thinking about it. So I have talked to parents who have special needs, children, neurodivergent, and that one parent may be okay with the label, one is not, right? And they're trying to figure out based on culture, beliefs, family, what they should do. I always tell anybody who asks me the question, you want to have that label. The reason being because you don't know what you don't know, and there's so many things. As Alicia said, it's a journey, right? So it may be different at 2 years old versus 10 versus 18, but in that journey, there's a lot of things that are going to happen that you cannot plan for, and that you don't understand. So having a label at least allows you to have some individuals have the apathy or the empathy to deal with your child in a different way, right? Also, there's resources that just are available. And one thing I didn't even know, because again, it's a journey. You learn as you go. As my children are teenagers now, it's more of an aspect of the transition to adulthood, services that are available. I didn't even look into that stuff nor care about it because we were dealing with all the physical, occupational, speech, hearing, you name it, all therapies. But without having that label, and maybe you want to give it another term, right? So it may be label is just a negative connotation. So it may be, I'm trying to think of a good term to tell you, Marcus, to just say, instead of saying autism, just saying a difference, right? So he just knows that it can help you throughout life, even with employment, job training, things of that nature that you may not have access to without the label. And again, I know what you're saying based on the time, but as Alicia said, it's never too late. So it's better.
Thank you for tuning in to the Real Autism Podcast with Alicia Gaucher Page. We'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsors of this episode: J. Cole Autism Coaching, helping caregivers navigate to a better quality of life; AGP Organizational Coaching, helping people develop effective strategies, systems, and solutions to organize information. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. or just visit us at jcoleadvocacy.com.